sad because you really wanted that video.
Well, yeah, we've recorded on video. It's like a waste not to have it. It's really bummed.
Well, I also didn't want you getting in trouble.
Right.
Okay, give me a second here. Do the whole YouTube thingy so I can see if someone talks to us. Well, I also didn't want you getting... Alright. Chest dicks. Let's start recording then. Wait. Should I Twitter this shit out at all? Gary, do you care?
Up to you. If you tweet it, I'll tweet it. If you tweet it, I'll retweet it.
Alright. Stop being so fucking nice. All the time.
Hey, can I answer the phone real quick, even if it's on live?
Yeah, of course. I don't care.
All right, cool. Hold on. Hi, baby. What's going on? Because I'm in the middle of podcasting to make up for yesterday. No. I got you more. Bye.
Oh, ray me a kiss for me. Oh, damn it. Alright.
Okay.
Twitter. I used the Twitter machine. I Twittered it.
Used.
Oh. I'm like, why is my phone fucking vibrating? It's just Gary liking and retweeting.
And I also got a notification on my phone for Watch, the Podcast of Terror, right now. That's the kind of magic that can happen when you subscribe to someone. You get to know right there. Hey, we're recording something. Watch it.
How do you have that set? This is now, I work in IT, so this doesn't make me seem super dumb. But how do you have that set up? Because I subscribe to our YouTube channel and I don't get notifications.
Yeah, see, like right there? It says right there.
Huh.
I subscribe nothing. It's on the Android. It's the YouTube app, and whatever I subscribe to, if somebody does something, it notifies me that that person either uploaded a video or is going live or anything actually revolving around their channel.
Interesting. I may just not have that shit on because I never use YouTube on my phone.
Yeah, I got the announcement too.
See?
Wow. Well, I also am a iPhone elitist prick, so.
Oh, you have an iPhone?
Yeah. Oh, you know what the worst part is? I just realized that I'm wearing this. I see the little thumbnail for the last episode we recorded, and I'm wearing the same shirt. That's fucking embarrassing.
That's embarrassing.
Whatever. So, two things I want to point out real quick before we record. I was told I have nice teeth by Brandon's girlfriend. I believe her name is Chrissy, and she also said I have a boring bedroom. So thank you and fuck you. I'm trying to sell our house. I got all my shit packed up. Next house, I promise to make it more interesting for those who actually watch the podcast.
No, you know what? It does look kind of boring.
Damn it. Gary, I can't tell you to fuck off because I love you too much. I don't know Chrissy a ton. I actually don't know her at all. I just know that she likes my teeth.
By the way, you do have very nice teeth. Very nice teeth.
My parents paid a lot of money for me to have nice teeth. And I disrespect them by brushing them once a day.
With talk.
You don't do twice a day, like at the end of the night?
I never so this is kind of weird. The only time I brush my teeth before bed is when I go to bed super drunk. That's like, for whatever reason, I'm like, I really gotta brush my teeth before bed.
So what you're saying is, when you're drunk, when you arguably make the best life decision.
I'm more responsible when I'm drunk.
There you go.
It's really weird.
There was never a case for alcoholism.
Speaking of, both of you, you might be getting some drunk I love yous this weekend, just saying. Cool, well, let's start recording the actual episode, I guess.
Okay.
Welcome to episode 53 of the Podcast of Terror, production of Galactic Netcasts. This is a podcast about all of the things that are scary. I'm your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey, sick as fuck Scott. Corey, how are you?
I'm allergic to this.
To podcasting or penis?
To your pretty teeth and your desolate bedroom.
My perfect fucking smile. My $1 million smile.
Your pretty mouth.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Do I feel good about you saying that I have a pretty mouth?
You should
Yes.
always take it as a compliment. That's a good thing.
Oh, okay, fine. At least it's a compliment. You could have told me to go fuck myself or something.
Exactly.
Thanks, Corey. For more on this podcast, including show notes, contact information, subscription links, go to gncast.com/pot. You can chat with us on our Slack channel during our shows at gncasts.com/signup. While you're over there, you can subscribe to our newsletter as well. We are spoiler heavy. This is apparently not my night. This week we're going to be spoiling Megan is Missing. So if you haven't seen it, go watch that first, then come back. I also like to swear, if you couldn't tell, because I said the word cock like 4 times already. Tonight, or if you're listening to this morning, we have the distinct pleasure of being joined once again by comic book artist, creator of Over, my hetero life mate, overall beautiful man, Gary Yap. Gary, how are you?
Hi, Matthew. How are you? I'm doing very, very good. Very, very good.
I kind of wish you wouldn't have gotten a chance to see that I had typed out that intro prior, get a little better a rise out of you, but yeah, thanks again for coming. I don't even remember how long ago the last time you were here.
It was an honor to be here last time and take on you both single-handedly as you shit all over the movie that I picked, but then eventually won you over in the end to make you realize that my point of view was the best point of view in the highly underrated and critically acclaimed entrance. And now I find myself once more entering the arena.
The Thunderdome of crotchety men.
I think your episode gets the most positive feedback from.
What does that mean, by the way? I mean, you told me that, and I was very, very, very honored and flattered by it. What is positive feedback? Somebody going, hey, do they go like, I watched that movie and it was cool? Do they leave any recommendations?
Was I drunk on that episode?
I don't think so.
You were on the episode, so I assume you were drunk.
I'm not drinking right now.
Well,
I thought about it. I looked in the fridge, had a beer in my hand, and I was like, not tonight. It's Gary's night.
Why would you quit so easily like that?
Because it's... Do you want me...
Especially when we just proved that the drunker you are, the better you are, apparently.
You two... Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to get a beer. Hang on.
In answer to your question, Gary, yes, we got a lot of positive feedback about the movie from one of my friends whose opinions mean a lot to me, Maggie. And then we also got feedback from our friend Lucy in the UK, who was on our episode recently, and she was talking about how that was a very prominent episode for her because the discussion was so... It was elevated. I mean, face it wasn't me and Matt by ourselves talking shit. It was somebody who actually brought something to the table about the conversation and about the film.
Okay.
She basically just said, we suck. You should have that guy Gary on again.
Oh my god. I think it's awesome that it keeps flashing to Matt's camera, even though he's not there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's farting in the background, and that's what's drawing the attention.
Well, I'm glad
He's going to get a beer. Did he go to fucking Milwaukee?
That made me feel really cool. Like when you said that. That was really cool. I'm glad, if anything, for the movie, which I don't think gets enough love, if I can do anything to bring awareness to it, I'm totally happy.
Yeah, I mean, it still kind of sticks with me. When I think back on it, I'm still kind of taken aback by certain scenes from it.
Yeah? Oh, so tonight's really good, then.
What's up, fuckers? Sorry. Did I miss anything good?
Yes.
Do we need to have like a quick recap?
No, you have to just go back and watch it later.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't stop recording the audio, so all of whatever you just talked about,
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just letting you
I'm a little smarter this time around. I see the live thing, so I'm not going to screw up like I did last time and start talking about things I shouldn't talk about.
No, I was serious, so I can show you, since it's an audio podcast, if you're listening, you're not going to be able to know, but, like, this is If you come on, start screen share. So this is I'd record the audio separate from the video.
Okay.
So I didn't stop the recording of the audio when
Okay.
I'm just letting you know.
I'm not doubting you.
God, I love you so much, Gary. Did you cover anything that I need to? I don't want to go back and.
No. He answered my question. Corey answered my question about what people said.
Oh,
That
fucking took a really long time. You guys are weird.
We were trying to fill.
Sorry, not sorry. Oh, I thought of this while I was getting a beer, and then my wife came down and yelled at me. And then the beer I grabbed had a cap, and I got the cap off, and then realized that there was a cork underneath it. Got upset, had to change my decision. Completely threw me off. That's a true fucking story. It was a wax-dipped bottle, and I got the cap off after chiseling wax off, only to find a cork underneath, and I was really upset because I really wanted to drink that beer. Anyways, I don't want to gloss over the fact that on episode 51 and 52 we had a lot of audio issues. 51 we tried something new to record, and it completely just fucking blew up in my face. If you couldn't make it past, I think it's 18 minutes in is when I figure out that I have to actively mute myself to not cut everyone else out. And also now with Hangouts, if my mic volume gets too loud, everyone comes back. It's just a fucking nightmare, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did you figure it out, though?
Yeah, so my computer auto-adjusts my mic, so if I turn me up too loud and you talk, it'll drown you out by the loop back. So it just adjusts down. If we use this other program, I have to actively mute myself when I'm not talking because of how it inputs audio. Computer words. I'm already bored listening to myself talk, so we should probably stop.
I will mention that we plan on releasing the review portion of the episode 51 for Triangle with Nicole because it was a particularly good review, I think, and she deserves to be heard discussing that movie.
I agree.
So you'll probably see that come out as a pot shot in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would have done it already, but Corey and I are both super busy in our personal lives. It's not that we don't love you. It's just that sometimes we like to do things apart. We're on a break right now. Marital break. No, not even a fucking chuckle. No, we're on a marital break with each other.
I smiled.
My wiener went woo. Why are we here?
We're gonna do some news.
Sorry, Gary's pussy distracted me. So Corey's been super sick, so I unfortunately for you two, I pulled most of the stories except the fourth one. One I specifically got for Gary, so I'm excited for that one. First one we have is that the first. Have either of you played the game Phantasmagoria?
I don't play video games because if I did, I would never get anything done.
Fair enough. Corey?
I didn't recognize this one. No, it's
okay.
Listed as a super old horror game for PC.
Yeah, it's on GOG.com. Good old games. Phantasmagoria is a live-action horror game that was created by Sierra Online in the 90s. It's I remember when it came out too because I bowled in a junior league at this time. A guy I bowled with, his dad came with the booklet and was talking about how he got this 9 CD-ROM game, and I'm like, oh, it sounds so fucking badass. And it was a super creepy horror game, and I think I finally played it when I was in my 20s. An amazing game. This makes me want to go back and play it again. But it's it came out during the time where live what are they even called?
Where they would interstitch video into the game?
No, it's 100% video. It's a point and click adventure type game, but any interaction is video. So if you're just looking at a room, it's just a picture of the room that it was filmed in.
Okay.
So yeah, it's point and click like Space Quest, King's Quest, and Police Quest were the later ones, but it's just all video. and it's a horror game. I kind of forgot what it was about, but like these two people buy this big old creepy house, and they find out that there's all this really fucked up shit that went on it, and you end up exploring the house, and it's such a good game. And then they made a second one, which was shorter, less involved, more out there, and I never finished that one. I should probably go do that.
When I was younger, I remember there being a game called Night Trap.
Yeah,
which
fucking
came out for the
great Sega CD. I had that.
Sega CD with Dana Plato from Different Strokes.
Oh, yep.
That's sort of what this reminded me of, because there was definitely video stuff that you were running through on that as part of the game.
Yeah. Have you ever played Night Trap? Sorry, we're talking about video games, and Gary's just in a
No,
different.
no, no. Oh, don't mind me.
Corey, did you ever play Night Trap?
A friend of mine had the system, so I got to see it, but only briefly.
So Night Trap was far different for anyone that is listening that's actually interested. Night Trap was like you just watched a video, and at certain times you'd have to watch for these guys that break in, but you'd have to so there's 6 cameras, you'd have to flip between the cameras and watch these teenagers have a slumber party, and you'd have to listen to them talk to get the security system codes. So essentially what you did is you watched the video, and then you had to trigger the security system when people were trying to break in, but it had to be it was like a color and then a button.
It's almost like Five Nights at Freddy's, sort of, is what it sounds like.
Yes. Far less scary, though. First video game with nudity, first video game that required a rating. It was the game that they took to court to get the rating system for video games.
Yeah.
Great game. I remember getting an emulator and a walkthrough to actually try and play through the entire game, and I think it was 90 minutes long, and I still couldn't get past 48 or 49 minutes. So yeah, Phantasmagoria turned 21. The whole point of that is that Phantasmagoria turned 21.
But you can play it now.
Yeah, it's on. Like I said, it's on GOG. I mid-conversation went there to try and find it, but they changed their fucking website. Really threw me off. Cocksuckers. So yeah, that game's super good. I think it's like $10 if you have any interest in the 90s and horror. Do it. Corey, I might buy it for you. Second story also involves video games, but it involves something that Gary loves. Is near and dear to his heart. I think it's actually wrestling. It's about wrestling. I think wrestling is one of the first things Gary and I really bonded over. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One of yeah.
Yeah, because we had just started talking, and I was at the Arnold, and I'm like, "Hey, there's all these fucking wrestlers.
Right.
Who's this asshole?" And you told me, but Finn Balor, who recently moved from NXT to WWE, is going to be in the new WWE video game. The reason that I'm bringing it up here is because last March at the NXT event before WrestleMania, he did a Texas Chainsaw Massacre entrance where he came in with a chainsaw and swung it around like Leatherface does in the first movie. They're putting that entrance in the video game, which I thought was actually pretty cool.
Which is cool because his entrance is already awesome enough.
Yeah, it's super entertaining. This is actually one of the guys that I asked you about.
Yeah.
Because I remember you're like, "Oh, is he wearing his war paint?" I'm like, "I don't know. He's wearing fucking black undies."
And he wasn't wearing the war paint for the one you saw, right?
Nope. So, and I know that I explained it to you, but for some context, what we saw was NXT live tryouts. So you just watched people doing wrestling tryouts.
At the Arnold Invitational, right?
Yep. Yeah, they did it again last year, but we didn't stay Saturday. I think next year we're gonna stay because one of the guys I go with, him and his son, are getting into wrestling again. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, hopefully your buddy's there.
A lot of friends there. A lot of good people there.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, if you're into wrestling and horror, like some of us in the world, WWE 2K17 comes out in October. Finn Balor will have his Texas Chainsaw Massacre entrance. Get it. Next up, I feel like we talked about this briefly. It was mentioned as becoming a thing. Now it is an actual thing. But the Lost Boys is becoming a CW series.
Which is not shocking at all.
No, where the fuck was I? When we were out in Minneapolis, I saw an Exorcist TV show billboard. Yeah,
that's coming out on Fox this season. We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. I was surprised that there was a billboard for it, for one. But it seems like more movies are becoming series, like Friday the
Well,
13th.
everything is about the IPs, right? Everything is about IPs nowadays, intellectual properties. That's what it's all about. Anything that already has a brand and preferable audience already associated with it, they can just either reboot or restart or reimagine for a new
Yeah,
audience.
it's way easier to polish a turd than to make something new, which sucks. But I really liked Lost Boys. So if the series is good, awesome. I really like The Exorcist. If the series is good, awesome. But I don't know. I guess I'm set up for failure.
Well, this is from Rob Thomas, who's doing iZombie on CW now, which is based off of a comic series. But he also did Veronica Mars.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean he's a talented guy. iZombie has definitely picked up a lot of fans. Is doing pretty well.
Watching, I hear good things about that, but the premise seems really out there. Like
No, it's pretty good. It's solid. It takes a while to kind of warm up, so to speak. But yeah, it's got a talented cast, and as you kind of get in the story, it improves as it goes along. The cast is pretty talented.
I had to Google to make sure that this Rob Thomas was not the same for Matchbox 20.
Yeah.
Different guys, I promise. The original film, if you weren't aware, had Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patric, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, and Tim Capello. And then it says, this guy, there's a link to it. I don't know. It's a fucking video. How do you do it? Huh. Yeah.
And I think Lost Boys is something that you can riff on that for a TV series. I mean, CW's already got the Vampire Diaries and a spin-off of the Vampire Diaries. I don't know that they need another vampire show, but the Lost Boys, there's a lot there that you can explore.
Yeah, didn't they make more than one?
They've made a couple sequels.
Okay.
Straight to video thingamajiggies. Yeah.
Which isn't saying a whole lot these days. Everything is straight to video.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no information other than it says that the first season will supposedly take place in 1967, and the only characters that will progress from one season to the next will be the vampires, who obviously don't age. Curious to see what happens. The last news story, I think Corey brought.
Yeah, so Jeff Katz is talking about the planned Sleepaway Camp reboot, which is now not being called a reboot, but being called a sequel, and includes the original actress Felissa Rose. She's going to play the iconic role again from that movie. Now, I don't want to give too much away about Sleepaway Camp, but it's plenty good fucked up for its time.
It's a pretty interesting movie, to be honest.
And my wife watches not only it, but the sequels, which did not star Felissa Rose. They starred Bruce Springsteen's sister, and they're just terrible. They're just awful. But she watches them all the goddamn time, so I kind of feel like this is good, not only because my wife will like it, but also because I think it does away with the two sequels from the continuity, since they're going back to the original actress.
I love the concept of the Sleepaway Camp movies. I am totally down for them. Whatever. The funny thing is, I wish they wouldn't kind of not acknowledge the sequels, because I always think there's a certain charm in embracing even the bad within your canon. And
I mean, it's possible that they will.
Yeah.
My
goal, if I could have one goal, it would be to create a franchise that would eventually spin off into a bunch of really bad sequels that I could totally disown, and then I swoop in on number 9 or something like that, and then do a version of it, but also acknowledge all the shitty ones of the past, and that's always been a little fantasy of mine, to have a shitty Hellraiser franchise that then just gets spawned off into really bad versions, and then people would tweet at me going, "How could you let this happen?" And then I just let it happen for 6 more films, and just collect the paycheck, and it's fun.
You you have to respond with a video of you with like just stacks of money. You just be like, huh?
Just superimpose your face over Scrooge McDuck's body of diving into the big pit of money.
So I've always wanted to just shamelessly do that. Like I always, what was the other one that did it? Like From Dusk Till Dawn, and they had like From Dusk Till Dawn 2 and 3, Hangman's, like all these different things. And I remember thinking, God bless shitty straight-to-video sequels. I love them. They're so horrible.
Well, I mean, Wes Craven did it with Nightmare on Elm Street. He did the first one and then didn't come back for a long time until New Nightmare.
Yeah.
Yep. Quick interjection, because I cannot let things go. Currently, Phantasmagoria is $3.29 on GOG.
Ooh.
The first one's like $1.29 or something. You can get them both for $5.26. I apparently already own it. So it wasn't a surprise. Yeah, sorry to sidetrack that, derail your conversation, but I've actually never seen Sleepaway Camp. It was one that came up a lot when I was a kid. I'm gonna have to change that.
I worked at Blockbuster at a certain point in time, so I remember the sequels would come out, like Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, and like, there was all these different subtitles to them, and yeah.
Depending on the age of the person listening, a Blockbuster is where you used to go to rent VHS and DVDs.
No, to get VHSs.
Well, they had DVDs eventually, because
Yes.
I remember when our Blockbuster went out of business, I went there shopping.
Okay.
But yeah, we used to. There was a video shop in Sheboygan where I grew up called Preferred Video, and my mom would always call it Perverted Video for whatever reason. But if I got good grades, I get to go pick out a Nintendo game to rent. Yeah.
Yes, there used to be actual physical brick and mortar places you'd have to go to pick up your VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And games off when they first started renting the games in those shitty plastic Amarais, and that's how you got your entertainment, kids.
Yeah, I remember when like when GameFly became a thing, and they just, we'll mail you games. It's the Netflix for video games. But what they don't tell you is that if you didn't like your game on a Monday, you mailed it out. They didn't get it till Wednesday. You didn't get a game back till Friday. I was like, you just a shit ton of money for that. I'm curious if they upped their game at all, but fucking GameFly. So yeah, Sleepaway Camp's coming back. All that for that. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about this movie that Gary made us watch. I'm not gonna. Gary, so this is the second opportunity to record this episode because we changed the time. I forgot to change it on our calendars. Corey was sleeping because he didn't feel good yesterday. So Gary already knows how I feel about this movie, so I can't even play it off. But Corey doesn't.
Ooh, okay.
So Corey doesn't know how I feel about this movie. So I'm curious to see. But
do you feel naughty?
Lazy lip drag. We watched 2011's Megan is Missing, which Gary, do you want to describe what it's about?
Sure. I think I wrote it down. I wrote down the bullet points, so I'll give it a quick synopsis. It is a I guess it's a found footage movie. It's a narrative pieced together from. It's fictional first and foremost. It's not a documentary, but it's very well done in that it pieces together a narrative using video messaging, the equivalent of like Skype webcam conversations, security footage, news footage, and the final 25 minutes, which is the most horrifying part of the movie, is the main character's video camera, which she gets in the beginning of the film, and it's the footage from that camera. And it pieces together basically what happens. There's two friends, Amy and Megan. Amy's actually the main character. Megan is the one that goes missing. Megan is 14 years old. Amy is 13 when the film begins, and they are best friends. First off, tip of the hat to Amber Perkins and Rachel Quinn. Amber Perkins played Amy, and Rachel Quinn played Megan. And these two young actresses had a natural air about them that never made it seem like, at least for me, that they were acting in any way, shape, or form. Megan is the one with a troubled life, shitty mom, stepdad who fucked her at a certain age, really bad influences, but known as the quote unquote popular girl in school. And Amy is her only good friend, the only really good person in her life. Amy herself has a wonderful life. She has a great father. She has a good mother. And the movie, at about, I want to say the 20-minute mark or so, you follow their friendship. You see how they interact with their peers. Amy is the more nerdy and, oh my god, you're not going to bring your friend Amy to the party kind of character. Megan is the popular one and the one who will blow you if you need. In fact, there's a really interesting line Megan says, which I thought was very telling. She says, guys like me, I'll pretty much do what you want, but you got to tell me that you like me. And that's a line. Oh, actually, I thought she said like. But you follow them through their partying. You follow them through. The party scenes reminded me a lot of Kids, Larry Clark's Kids. It's not easy to watch. It's not cinematic. It's almost like a documentary. It's like a camera, and you see these kids and what goes on at the party Megan goes to and the kind of people Megan hangs out with. There's a really incredible scene about once you see the first party, you see the way they interact with friends. There's a nice little moment between the two of them, the two friends, as they're video chatting back and forth, and it's a 5-minute scene of Megan telling Amy about the first time she gave head. And it is so remarkably unsettling. And
that's when I text you, by the way.
Really? My wife and I, we watched this with our kids. We saw it, and we wanted our kids to see it because we really wanted this to be a cautionary tale. We really wanted our kids to watch this film. And Megan tells a story. It's like I said, it's about a 5-minute take of the first time she gives a guy head, from how he made her do it to the entire act to the completion. Very troubling, powerful scene, and that's the kind of stuff this movie doesn't shy away from at all. It's and at about the 20-minute mark or so, I want to say 25-minute mark, Megan basically goes missing. She was introduced to a guy from a friend of a friend, this guy who's online named Skater Dude, and they kind of talk back and forth for a little bit. They're going to meet at a party. He doesn't show up. A lot of manipulation on his part. We watch them interact online, the flirtatiousness, his game playing, how he gets her attention, all remarkably, again, frighteningly real and accurate in its simplicity, in the language, in the way these kids talk to each other, in the way they flirt with each other, in the way they try to get things out of each other. And she goes to meet him at one point in time, and then she disappears. And the rest of the film is Amy basically trying to figure out what happened. And this is, I wanted to read this. I apologize for not having it up right now. I meant to have it up earlier. That's what she said. And this is a statement from the director, Michael Goy. And if you go to meganismissing.com, there's a lot of really, really good information about the film, including a wonderful statement I won't read from Mark Klass, Father to Polyclass. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, I suggest you Google it. But it's a statement from him endorsing the film and the power of this film. And then there's also a director's statement from Michael Goy. And I wanted to read this one part of the director's statement, which I think is very important to experiencing this film. And he says, the script is entirely based on real occurrences. I chose 7 cases to cull details from. 5 of the cases dealt with abducted and murdered children, and 2 dealt specifically with internet predators. There is not a single incident in the film that I made up entirely out of thin air. The dialogue in the movie is based on real chats by 13 and 14-year-old girls who are the children of friends. The girls allowed me to listen to their conversations with girlfriends, the things they would never want their parents to hear, their real life when they're not helping them with groceries or saying goodnight to grandma. And it shocked the hell out of me. So the filmmaker really did his best to make this thing feel as authentic as possible. And as Amy starts to poke around looking for Megan, we also get to see the news coverage of Megan's disappearance, the reenactments that they do of Megan's disappearance. There's a lot of social commentary within the actual news reports themselves because they'll have an entire feature dedicated to this missing girl who was popular and who everybody liked, who, of course, we know as the viewers know that she had a horrible life, an absolutely horrible life that she hated in every way, shape, or form. And then the news report will also say, and also, there is a child missing who was taken from, and it was I want to say it was Compton, and how that report gets like a little blurb, while the story of Megan, because she is this beautiful white girl, gets major headlines. So I thought there was a lot of interesting social commentary within the news reports themselves, about white privilege and about things that could be considered very topical nowadays. But as Amy gets closer to who this skater dude is, what he's about, he has to do something about that. So while she starts documenting this search with her video camera, little things start to happen. Like there's a little spot she goes to. She takes her camera to her little confessional spot, which is under a bridge where she keeps this teddy bear that she's had since she was a kid. That's too fucked up to keep at home. And she goes and she does a little confessional there. And there's this wonderful scene where, as she's looking at the camera, there's a bunch of bushes and shrubbery and stairs underneath this bridge. And there's just a silhouette, just kind of right over here, of a guy kind of walking, kind of looking, and it's real vague. And they don't make it easy for you because you got to kind of go, is somebody watching her? The movie loves little things like that could be foreboding or could be just, hey, why is there a girl with a video camera down there? and about I want to say, 50 minutes to an hour in, Amy goes missing too. And even the scene where she goes missing with the, and when you see it, the scene with the arm that just comes into frame and pauses. The movie's reluctance to use, and this is very similar to Entrance, what we talked about last time, there are no music cues in this movie. There are no dun 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 or false scares or jump scares. In fact, some of the most horrific stuff happens in silence. Like they find photos, 2 photos, during one of the one of the investigations of what was believed to be Megan, and they show these 2 photos, and they're very graphic and they're very troubling. And after Amy disappears, the police, in one of the found footage sequences, they find her video camera. And basically the last, like I said, 20, 25 minutes is the footage, uncut, of what happened to Amy, where she is, what happened to Megan, and how this whole thing ends, which I think the last sequence is extremely disturbing, extremely unsettling. It's really hard to watch, especially, and you said we're spoiler heavy, so but he the killer basically buries her in a drum with Megan, who's already dead. And the last 10 minutes is just the killer burying this drum while you listen to Amy plead for her life, including her talking about how they can love each other, how she promises that if he just lets her out, everything will be better. The movie is not going to let you go. It's not happy. It's a horrifying conclusion, and a character who is extremely good, a good person who cared about her friend, who had a wonderful life and parents who loved her, is horribly murdered. And it is fucking unrelenting. I also meant to say, within that footage as well, she's also raped within the footage, and you watch her tied up, you watch what happened to Megan, you watch the rape, you watch her plead for her life, you watch her get thrown into this drum, you listen to her get buried, and her sound gets more and more and more muffled, and they know the terror in this thing is just letting it sit there. And again, I have to say, these actresses, Amber Perkins and Rachel Quinn, Jesus, what they were able to do. You know, I looked them up on IMDb, and neither one has done a lot of stuff. And I always find that very, very troubling when an actress can do so well at something that's considered found footage. A lot of times it works against them and hurts their careers because they become so identified with this thing that people have identified them with. And it truly is a shame if these girls don't want to do something. But the use of found footage, the way they use and the pictures and the photos and the new stuff, I thought it was an incredibly original film, very committed to its the way it's going to tell its story. And it's a tough watch. It is a very, 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 very tough, troubling watch, which in my opinion is kind of what a horror film is supposed to be about. So I think that summarizes it pretty well.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm getting insane loopback all of a sudden. It might be good now. Alright. 2 seconds. I paused the recording, and that's why there's that awkward pause. Because I don't know if you noticed, when I acknowledged you're talking, it went all
Yeah,
ape
we
shit.
heard it.
Okay.
Corey, shut up. Give me a second here. Buddy. Alright. So, Corey, I'm curious to hear what you thought about this movie.
Okay. Well, I think we've discussed many a time that one of the things that I don't have triggers in that kind of verbiage, but there are certainly things that disturb me more than other things, and rape is one of the things that really kind of like makes me cringe and not want to tune into a film. I normally won't watch stuff when it involves those sorts of things. If I know it's coming, and if I'm not doing it for a show, I'll sit through some pretty heinous shit for this podcast. And as far as that scene goes, that was... I mean, I can't say that it's anything worse than what I've seen on recent season of Game of Thrones, for instance, which blew up the internet when it happened. But for the fact that it's not done in a fantasy setting, it's done in a way that is very true to life, and was a young girl, like you said. Now, part of the thing with the movie is that it was released in 2011, and both these actresses would have been 20, 21 at that point in time. But it was actually filmed in 2007, which is when it's all supposed to be taking place.
Okay.
So they were teenagers at the time of the filming, which makes it a little bit harder to watch this as like they're age appropriate essentially to what they're playing in the film. They're not 14, 15, but they're pretty close.
Yeah.
And I've seen, as you were mentioning, the movie Kids. I can't watch the movie Kids.
It's tough.
I just know too much about it, but I've seen things like 13 and Havoc, and they're very similar in the way that they are approaching. More 13 is this age group and going and seeing these young girls who are trying so hard to act like grown-ups, trying so hard to fit in with friends who are kind of leading them down a path that is like stop being goody-goody and be cool and do these things and stuff. And it's, as far as that portion of the movie, that itself was hard to watch. That itself was like, I know what kids are like. I remember being a teenager. It's not like that far away of like what my friends and I were like when we were kids, or tried to be, what I knew my other friends were like. But it's hard to see kids offering sexual favors for drugs, offering sexual favors to 17-year-olds at camp and things. It's being raped by their step-parents. All that stuff is itself pretty disturbing. The recording aspect of it kind of reminded me of the tech portions of Strangeland.
Oh, okay.
Where I just didn't buy into the tech because all the walking around with the cell phones doing video calls in 2007 just randomly, or the fact that everything's recorded, that kind of pulled me out of it a little bit. The other part of it was when they find the camera in the garbage can with the last 20 minutes of footage at the place where he abducted Amy. I was kind of not sure why the guy would go and dump the camera there to essentially make it easier for them to find him. The whole dungeon thing that he filmed it at, where he had the girls captured and tortured, and showing footage of where he buried them, I just didn't understand why he would try to make it so that the cops would find this footage, other than the fact that it's to get the story more of a viewing point for the audience.
I don't know. I kind of feel like he put the camera in the garbage can on purpose so that they would find it. But then again, I don't think that's really a point that was ever supposed to be made in this movie.
Right. I think I took it more as almost like we need an ending.
Yeah.
By the way, you should know this is how the footage, this is what turned out. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it feels like we need an ending, and that ending is very vile. And if you're looking at it as a film to educate young people to be careful of who they talk to online, I just wonder, how likely are you to show this movie to young people? Like the people who are...
As a parent, I can tell you, we like I said, we showed it to our 3 teenage kids. It was not an easy viewing, especially the talking about the sex and everything. And sadly, thank God not kids, but sadly, I do know through my daughter's friends, girls who are very similar to Megan. And I can vouch for the authenticity and how real I felt all of the conversations between the girls really felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, the whole movie made me uncomfortable.
Which, by the way, I think is what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. At one point, as mentioned, I text Gary and I just asked him, I said, do kids really actually talk like this? Because this doesn't seem fucking real at all. And that was the point at which it actually started to sink in. Yeah, kids talk like this and kids do this stuff. And I mean, I went to a private high school, so the girls that I went to high school with never really talked about, blowing dudes and all that shit. So it was foreign to me. Granted, I also went to high school a lot more recent than you guys, but it was still 12 years ago. 12 years ago I graduated. So when it was confirmed that this is what girls talk like, and that these are the things that they say, it started to sink in, and then the last 20 minutes just were so uncomfortable. I shouldn't say that. It was the rape scene. The point I just remember sitting there and watching it, and the point at which Amy gives up, and like her face just is fucking blank. I was like, I feel like I need to turn this off. Like, I can't watch this anymore. So phenomenal acting.
Yeah.
By her, and it's really weird to be like, yeah, you did great in that rape scene. But it really was, and obviously it was a good job because it made me uncomfortable. Like, a lot of things don't make me uncomfortable, so. And this is what last night when Gary and I talked, I said, like, when we watched Entrance, I didn't know what I was getting into, so I kind of just like watched it. And watching this, knowing what kind of movies you like, I could go into it having a little better idea of what I was about to see. And I think that helped because I was able to actually like take the movie for what it was instead of just it being on. We watch a lot of bad movies, so I didn't really expect to see something that would actually make me uncomfortable the first time around, whereas this time I was like, all right, this is a Gary choice, so it's gonna be a fuck. Yeah, man, I really like this movie though. I may never watch it again, just because I don't think I can sit through that again.
I watched it again. I own it. I got it on Amazon. I own it, and I watched it again to refresh my memory, to discuss it with you guys, and I was just reminded of it's just like being kicked in the balls constantly, and then the ending is just like it tears your balls off and just feeds them to you, and it doesn't give a fuck about you. I mean, it again. I like Amber Perkins. Seriously, fucking
bravo.
And I greatly encourage people to go check out meganismissing.com, the website, because there's a lot of different testimonials on there. Like the Michael Goy's statement is really, really good. He also talks about how everybody's families and parents were there while they were shooting, like all the precautions he took and everything, how much work he really put into this. And Michael Goy has since gone on to direct several American Horror Stories. So so unsettling people is really in his really enjoys it.
It's in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
He's a big cinematographer, and he's done a lot of stuff. But it seems like the stuff he writes is really kind of creepy. The other things that he's done. You mentioned class. I work in Petaluma. I live in the next town over from where PoT class was conducted. I knew people in California that lived out here before I moved out here when that was happening. I remember that whole story.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
You are all weird and garbled. Is that just for me?
It's a little like that for me too. But I mean, I understood you about PoT class in the next city over and when it happened. But it is a little garbled, yeah.
Let's see. I'm hearing so much of myself in the background.
Fucking Hangouts.
I can log out.
Yeah, you want to give that a shot, please. I assume you can hear yourself too. Is it distracting?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like Hangouts was fine, and then all of a sudden, it's like I'm getting like insane loopback.
Okay.
Which is a fucking nightmare. Hi, Corey.
Any better?
Yeah, you're great now.
Okay, great.
Let's see what the fuck I'm seeing. Hang on a second. Bravo.
While they were shooting, truly enjoyed
A lot of stuff.
unsettling people is really in his truly enjoys it.
It's in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you were saying there, Corey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna cut the whole end like where you started.
Yep.
And then give me a second. And then I'll just give you the finger when you can go. Okay.
Yep. Yep. All right. So the thing is, you mentioned class when you were talking about the Megan's Missing website, and I live in the next town over from Petaluma, where Polyclass was kidnapped. I knew people who lived in that town when it happened. I remember watching the news story about it because it was local to people that I had just visited out here right before that happened, and so I remember that story distinctly. And it's still a big portion of living in Northern California that people remember that.
What was that?
What's that?
What was her name? Polly what?
Polyclass.
Klass.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with this.
Oh yeah, it was huge and scary, and unfortunately had a not good ending either.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't know if you listen to the newest 90s percentile, Corey.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's the way that this worked out is kind of strange, I guess, because they were talking about AOL Instant Messenger, and their guest was like, "Yeah, I just gave some guy my phone number," and then he called me.
Called her, right?
Yeah, but it's like that was in what, the 90s,
And she was 10 years old, and he basically tried to have phone sex with her.
But that's where it ended. Granted, I remember trying to pick up girls on, instant messaging, and would try and get their phone number and call them and stuff. I remember having to do extra chores to pay the phone bills multiple times. But like, you can't do that anymore. And I'm not saying that you should be able to do that, and that's not my point here. But it seems like a much different world now that the internet everyone has the internet. Back then, like, you had to be kind of well off to get the internet, I would assume. I mean, I was a kid, so I didn't pay for it.
But at the same time, I mean, so much of what people do is on their phones and tablets, and is completely private from their parents.
Yep.
And so all that stuff still exists. It's not like anybody's less likely to put themselves in danger. They're probably just as, if not more, because the first thing they do is, like, you meet up in a chat somewhere in WhatsApp or whatever, or people follow your Instagram and are like, "Oh, what's your Snapchat? What's your this?
Yeah.
And how are the places that I can reach you?" And if you're into things that are alternative, you feel more like it's a safe space. Like my best friend's son, who was kind of my son for a while, is into furries. I mean, that's his deal, and he hangs out in the furry communities. And one of our friends that we hang out with, they're both in their early 20s. They're both into this, and they go and they hang out in these communities and stuff, and it feels to them like a safe place. And the problem is that you can't be sure that everybody who's in there is safe, but you look for the place where you feel like you belong. And that's the problem, is that it's real easy to find a sense of belonging online.
You can be whoever you want on the internet.
Because you can be whoever you want. But then what you have to remember is everybody else can be whoever they want, or whoever they want you to think they are.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's... And I don't know how much early internet interaction you guys had, but I just remember never thinking twice about, who that person was on the other end.
Right.
I just assumed, I don't know. I feel like the concept of going online and being someone else, things you're into, wasn't really a problem. Like,
well, I mean, MTV has a show called Catfish, which is about people being in relationships with people that turned out to not be at all who they said they were.
I do love that show. But I mean, like, until the movie Strangeland came out, it was never like something I really thought about. I just assumed. Maybe I'm too trusting. That's my problem.
I mean, part of the reason I moved to California was because of friends that I met through Prodigy, through their bulletin board service.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think you're talking about the '90s electronic band.
Yeah.
You
This predates that.
move out to California to smack your bitch up.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, I forgot Prodigy was a internet service, much like AOL.
Yeah.
Uh,
So maybe the most disturbing point of the movie was not even that 20 minutes of Amy being essentially killed, but the scene after, which is Amy and Megan from an earlier point where they're sitting there hanging out in Amy's room and
Oh,
they're talking about their lives and what they're going to do
oh.
and how they're going to meet a nice boy and everything. So you see these two young girls who you've just now seen either killed or seen their bodies, and watching them with their entire lives ahead of them, talking about all the potential and knowing that it's never going to happen. That was a big, smart thing to close on in a film that was already disturbing to make it just kick you that much harder.
Good point, Corey. Good. I guess that's a. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's a really good point. Yeah. The movie just breaks my fucking heart. I mean, like this. It really, the first time I saw it, it really sat with me. Like hopefully a good horror movie does. It just sits in your stomach and bothers you and festers and.
I remember like laying in bed that night and just the mental image of Amy's face with the fucking dude's bloody hand.
Yeah.
It still bothered me.
Yeah. I mean,
And from a horror element, I just want to let people know, from a horror element, there's some scary stuff. The first time you see what happened to Megan is it's a millisecond and it's horribly disturbing. Like I said, the arm that comes out of nowhere, and until you see the movie, you don't know what I'm talking about, and it's really hard for me to describe. But there is a confessional with an arm that basically goes into a freeze frame. Again, something that comes out of nowhere, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
There are genuinely just scary parts that sit with you. Yeah.
yeah, and I wound up looking up some of the stories that it's based around. The murders of Ashley Pond and Miranda Gaddis was probably the biggest one for the disappearance portion and for the connection to the barrel. I mean, you were telling that on the site they talk about some of the stories that they draw from. This is probably the biggest influence. It just doesn't have anything to do with the online stuff. But one disappeared in January, the other one disappeared in March. A lot of the things emulate what the film does, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty disturbing again to think. You watch it as a movie and you think, okay, this is a fucked up movie, and there are things about it that are obviously seen true to life in the way that the characters are played, but to see the actual stories that it's pulling from, that it's telling this tale with, is makes it even harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just fuck.
I love the fact, by the way, that Matt is so affected by this. This really, I feel really satisfied here.
Guess I'm glad I started drinking. It makes the hurt less.
Now I'm gonna say, Gary, to go with the two movies that you've given us so far, I
Love.
I prefer the opening scenes of this movie, and I prefer the closing stuff to Entrance.
Okay.
Because Entrance is more of a horror movie
Yes.
than a lesson like Blood Flows Red on the Highway, scare the teenagers film.
Yeah.
But they both are scary things that are kind of true to life and could happen or have happened in some way.
And it's funny. I realize also there are similarities in both of them. Both end with a 20 to 25 minute single take shot which I thought was interesting. Both have revelations at certain minute points. 20 minutes in, half hour, 1 hour in. Both don't use music cues. Both rely on a more, I don't know if the word I want to use is cerebral, but like I said, they're not just run of the mill horror films.
Well, also an entrance, like you mentioned in this, there's the scene where Amy is sitting there at her favorite spot, and she's got the camera, and you see the guy approach behind her. There are scenes like that in Entrance, too, where if you go back and rewatch it later, you realize, oh shit, that's probably the guy right there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Gary ruined me a little bit. I'm just over here going over the movie in my head. Just fucking sad.
Isn't that the point, though? I mean, I realize there is an aspect of there are horror films that you'll watch. By the way, I have not seen this film yet. It's on Netflix now, and I'll see it because you recommended the Deathgasm one. But there are some horror films you watch, and there is a glee in the celebration of typical horror tropes and things that one can do that are almost like fun to be scared horror movies. And then, but for me, the ones that stick with me the most are the ones that are not interested in also winking at you. Like, isn't this fun? We're all scared. We're gonna do this, and play with this idea, like Scream. Really competent movies, by the way, great movies. But you're in on the joke. And then there are some, the ones that I feel like really, really, really affect me are the ones that, like I said, they're not. They don't have any interest in letting you in on the joke. They want to fuck you up and not just like, let's just gore the fuck out of you. It's like, no, they want to fuck you up.
Yeah.
And there you go. It's like, here's the film. Fucking sit with that, asshole. And I love that, and I think the fact that you can be so affected by it is what makes it so, to belabor the point, effective.
I completely agree. I mean, the movie got the point across to me, but not in a bad way either.
Right.
It's just I just don't believe that when I sat down to watch the movie, I had any indication or any way of even having any sort of idea that that's what was going to result.
Right.
Yeah, and it does such a great job of building up, especially Megan, her friendship with other people, her relationship with her friend Lexi, which is obviously Lexi has been friends with Megan for a long time, but is interested in having an actual relationship with her, and so Lexi takes it even harder when Megan goes missing and puts the blame on Amy, even though Lexi's the one who introduced Megan to the skater guy, Josh. And so the reactions from Megan's friends who already don't like Amy and don't know why Amy and Megan hang out and feel like Amy has sort of taken Megan away from them, how they treat Amy afterwards kind of sets Amy further down the path of she's kind of a pariah with everybody that should be her support group when Megan goes missing. Right. And so that kind of puts her in danger even more. She goes to the police to turn in Josh, but they can't really do anything, and they still semi-believe that Megan took off on her own.
Right.
So it's not until Amy disappears as well that they have something to really go on, which is just terrible.
Right. Whew.
Yeah, congratulations, Gary. You fucking ruined all of us.
Apparently, I have a bar that's been set that I gotta shoot for every single time now. So So.
You shouldn't. Don't say that. I don't want you to feel like you have to one up yourself, but
I should.
Just keep bringing quality movies, and we'll be fine. Do you guys want to? Should we rate this, or does anyone else have anything they want to say? I don't want to cut you off if you have another thought you want to get across, but
No, I think we've really.
like getting really deep into this movie has just demolished me. Really,
That is poor wording.
Shut up, Corey. As always, we'll rate this movie on 3 categories on a scale of 0 to 5. We're going to go rewatchability, story, and scariness. Gary, since you're the guest, you have to start out. We'll do rewatchability first.
I admire technically several things in this movie, but I confess it is a really hard film to watch. Again, it is a really hard film. If you take your movies seriously and you let them wash over you, this is not an easy film to get through.
Nope. So you got to give it a 0 to 5, though.
Oh wow. 1 or 2.
We'll go 1.5. Split the difference for you.
Okay.
I don't want to say 0. I'm gonna say 1, just
You
because.
got the nicest way, by the way. I don't want you. There's I can't watch this again because it sucked.
No. It's not that I
Right.
cannot watch this again because it sucked. I have no interest to watch this again because of how uncomfortable it made me feel. Now, I'm giving it a 1 because there may be that time where it comes up and someone,
Yeah.
So I won't say 0, but I do not think I will ever go back and watch this movie on my own accord again. But this movie will never ever leave me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a videotape copy and distribute it like The Ring.
Yeah.
It's just, you go in there and deal with this yourself because I'm not watching it again. I won't give it a 0 either because it is the story of Amy and Megan throughout it is very good. So for that, it's rewatchable, but for the end scene, it's like, no, I can't do that to myself again. So yeah, I'll say 1.
I thought you might have gone a little harder. Story 0 to 5, Gary.
I like the story. I like the way the story was told. I like the storytelling techniques. I realize that one could definitely, if they wanted to be a dickhead, nitpick the. Well, technically, video calls don't work like that. Blah blah blah. But seriously, it's a device to tell a narrative, and I thought the story was really well done. So I'd probably go 4.
The story and the message were really good. I will also give it a 4. I was trying to think if there was any other ideas I had there. No, I don't.
Whereas I am that dickhead, I'm going to give it a 3, not only because of the technology buy-in that I had problems with, but also because in the end of the day, the Josh character didn't have enough dimension for me. It certainly wasn't his story, but I felt like he is kind of where it fell apart a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think making him more vague was a way of making him.
That it could be anybody.
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree with that, but what he did, the 2 girls in a barrel, moving it by himself, taking it up to the woods himself, with 2 bodies in there, burying himself, and then dropping the camera off to be found. All of his motivations and stuff, it just ill-defined, which is something that Matt and I often have a problem with, is that we want things spelled out a little bit more.
Right.
But also, I didn't have a full buy-in for him. But the story wasn't about him. The story was about the girls, and so how the story affects the girls, especially the end, is more important. That's why I'm going with a 3.
Fair enough.
The last one we have is scariness. Gary.
There are so many different ways to define scariness. I'm going to define scariness for the purpose of this. For me, scariness is after the film is done, am I still unsettled by it? And for me, the answer was a huge yes. So I'm going to give it a 5, just because it really was effective in what it wanted to do. So I have to give it my full credit.
Yeah, rating the scariness of this to me was never scary, more unsettling, like we had talked about the last time you were on.
Yeah.
And for that, I will also give it a 5 because this is the first movie in a very, very long time that I remember watching and just like being speechless. I didn't, and as I mentioned, I was actively talking to Gary throughout this, and towards the end, I just stopped. I'm like, I just don't. I feel gross and uncomfortable. 5.
Yeah, hug your kids.
Yeah, holy fuck, man. Awesome. Yeah, great. Once again, Gary, great movie. I'm really glad that you brought this to me. I
Awesome.
assume Corey as well. You do good work. You didn't even have to convince me this time that it was a good movie. I did it on my own. You can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. You can email us at pot@gncast.com, or you can leave us a message on the website. We want to hear from you. Tell us all of the things that you like or don't like. Let us know your favorite part of the show, your least favorite part of the show, something you want us to do. Movie recommendations. I know we've had a ton of guests recently, so they've been bringing movies. But yeah, please keep sending in movie recommendations. We'll add them to the list. We'll get through that shit and get to some movies. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Podcastateer. You can subscribe to us. Subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, any of your favorite podcatchers. Leave us feedback, 5-star reviews, whichever one you like. Also, all the subscription links and options can be found at gncast.com/subscribe. You can find us on Facebook under Galactic Netcasts. Gary, where can the nice people find you?
Follow me on Twitter at GaryApp.com, or just type in GaryApp.com. That goes straight to my Twitter. You can watch all what we do at artoverlifestudios.com. That's my website, artoverlifestudios.com.
Awesome. Gary, thanks again for coming. Corey, where people find you?
Best place to find me is donetscomics.com, where you can find the comics that I have either written or just published for Levi Krause.
Awesome. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MattTheLifeGuard. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. Here, we'll catch you guys next week. Sweet.
We are still rolling.
Yeah, we're still live on YouTube, so don't say anything. I paused the audio. We still have the next week thing. Fucking loop back, man. Corey. I'm literally buying a new board right now because Brett is explaining to me how to fix it.
Yeah, we went through some stuff with Brett when I did the Geek Cinema Society.
Yeah, I just gotta find. I'll feel much better about buying another board if I can find someone to buy my old one.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be that hard. I'll just probably put it on eBay. But sweet sassy molassie. Okay, no one's watching YouTube. I gotta pull a section. After you were garbled, I went back. I forgot to push the button so that I would record you. So I gotta go pull it out of YouTube too. So this will be fun when we're done here. But
oh yeah.
Cool. Gary, if you want to stick around, I gotta play an ad. Actually, I'll put the ad in afterwards. We'll just do the next week thing and then close the show real quick. Corey, are you ready, my little schnuggerpuss?
I am.
Cool.
Next week on the Podcast of Terror.
Next week, we are joined by the lead singer of the Minneapolis death metal band. I think they're death metal band, Aetheric, Eric Caius. Eric's actually a pretty good friend of mine. Him and I go way back. I know he's a big horror fan, so I invited him on the show. We're going to be talking about the movie Frighteners. which I've never seen. Corey, have you seen it?
I have. It's kind of a favorite of mine, so it'll be fun.
Is it
to
really?
revisit.
I wasn't. I was surprised when I saw that What's His Nuts was on it. Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few people in there I think will recognize. So I look forward to your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it. So yeah, that'll be next week. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Podcast of Terror. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Stay scary, everybody.
Cool. All right.